Do we have to talk about SmackDown? I guess we do. The big world title tournament is progressing. It's progressing, or maybe it's regressing. It might be going backwards. But everything happened on SmackDown this week. On May the 12th is the date of it. And they were in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the big building there, Thompson Bowling, the home of the University of Tennessee. And do you realize, Brian, that this December, this Christmas, it will be 30 years ago since the first triple threat match was down the road about 5 or 6 miles at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum in the same exact town. And it's the stupidest thing I ever did. And I can't stand them now. Edge versus AJ Styles versus Rey Mysterio. So again, besides the fact that they have completely screwed up the rules of these things, and it's the first person to get a pin, and it's no disqualification, and it's 2 baby faces and 1 heel in the ring.
Do you think it would be better if it was elimination? I hadn't thought about that until you just said it.
That's what it's supposed to be. That's what it was. Remember, just for the people who may not be newer listeners, it's my fault. Christmas of 1993 in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I booked what I termed a triple threat match between the Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony and Primetime Brian Lee and Tracy Smothers. Because Tracy was a full-fledged babyface and my top babyface. Brian Lee had been a previous top babyface, but he had switched heel on Tracy Smothers. He was now a heel. And Tony Anthony was a heel that was about to switch babyface because of what was going on between him and Brian Lee. But Tony had finished a bloody and violent program just previously with Tracy Smothers. So they all three disliked each other. And that's what it was for the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight title. A triple threat match. When a man's pinned, he's eliminated. The last man in the ring is the champion, is the best man, is the fucking winner. And it wasn't no disqualification because it didn't need to be, because that would have been a hat on a hat. And in 4 years of the promotion, I booked 1 of these matches. 1 tag match with the Midnight or the Heavenly Bodies, the Rock and Roll Express, and the Stud Stable, because it was a similar situation. They all disliked each other. And 1 singles 3-way. And Jesus Christ, there was a reason for it. But there wasn't a reason for it that often. And when I booked it, I had it in my head, because if I'd have gone to the boys and said, okay, here's what we're thinking, how the fuck are we going to do that? Because we hadn't had one before. So I had it in my head how that one guy could believably be wiped out of the action for a couple minutes for other shit to go on, but then there would be interplay amongst all the people that disliked each other that still fit their gimmick, their personalities, and it wasn't beloved Tracy Smothers teaming up with Brian Lee to beat up the Dirty White Boy, who was the hometown guy anyway, because he was from Knoxville. Shit that wouldn't make sense. And we did it once. And if you did it every few years, it probably would work if there was an issue that called for it. But this has gotten out of hand. All right. And then the other mistake I made was having Jim Ross do my television, because he came in and did TV when we were talking about these things. And he called me up one day from the office in Stamford and said, hey, what do you call that 3-way match, a triple threat? What's the rules? And then they made it first guy that gets the pin so that they could avoid people doing jobs, and screwed the whole thing up, because then champions can lose the title without being defeated, which is ignorant, and et cetera, et cetera. Can I continue now on this program?
Yeah.
Do you see I'm cranky? I'm getting cranky as we go on. Edge has cut all his hair off. And can't older people be long-haired, brooding hippie types too? He looks like he ought to be driving a soccer dad's van with short hair. Well, no, seriously, normal people have short hair. Rock stars have long hair to go with their long coats.
Well, at least he still has a long coat.
Well, but now it's even more obvious that his hair is short because his coat is long. But his coat's so shiny.
This is the most ridiculous thing. So if he got a shorter coat, would it be less bothersome to you that his hair is so short?
Well, maybe he needs more vitamin C and fish oil to make his coat shinier. All right, anyway, all three of these guys are great talents, but these matches are interminable because it's just people doing shit to each other over and over and then disappearing for periods of time. But after all of that, Ray came off the top, and Edge was apparently supposed to spear him in midair, but Edge didn't, and Ray just landed on his feet and took the bump anyway. And then Edge was kind of like, what the fuck? And AJ came off the top with the phenomenal forearm to Edge, 1, 2, 3. So now it's AJ Styles has advanced over either Edge or Rey Mysterio. Apparently they're going to renew pushing AJ. Remember, he was kind of at flunky level for a while there. And then has he been off with an injury? Haven't seen a lot of him lately. But is it the appropriate place to start pushing somebody again, even if they're a great talent that you haven't been pushing recently when it's a brand new championship that's being established from scratch? Is my question to you.
I mean, AJ just got back. He's back with the OC and Mia Yim. Was he ever with Mia Yim before? I don't remember, but she's with them now.
I have nothing to do with their personal lives.
That's not what I meant. But he's previously been a main eventer, previously been a world champion. I have no problem with him being in the picture.
I get
more than Edge right now. I think Edge right now is coming off a period of time where it would be a mistake to put him in there. AJ's coming off not being on TV. Edge is coming off.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Neither one of these guys are going to win the thing. So if Edge went to the finals, Edge is a Hall of Famer, blah, 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 but Edge could also get beat. And it's not going to hurt Edge, but if they've just brought AJ back and they're trying to renew a push, unless he's going to win the thing, and then,
And then if he wins, does he go to Raw? Does he have to leave SmackDown?
See, that's it. He ain't going to win it anyway. But what I'm saying is you bring him back. He's been gone for a little while. You're going to push him by having him win this 3-way, and then he's about to get fucking beat shortly or sooner, in the finals of the thing. But nevertheless, your thoughts on the match, the contest?
It was fine for what it was. I'm not a big 3-way fan, and this wasn't anything spectacular in the genre of the 3-way matches. It was fine for what it was.
Well, then in that case, then I'll ask you what you thought about the next one, because if that one was just so-so, the next one wasn't as good as this one was. In my opinion, Lashley, Austin Theory, and our friend Sheamus. And, again, if it's another 3-way with 2 baby faces and 1 heel, and again, having Bobby Lashley in a match where he has to keep track of a lot of different shit and be in the right place for it and help out smaller guys instead of being, kill, crush, destroy, that's basically it. They did the same thing that they've been doing with all the other 3-ways. At one point, Theory just bumped over the top rope and disappeared for quite a while. They go 3 minutes to the break. They come back. Bobby posts Theory, and he's gone again. And I was writing, Theory is the one I want to see, and he's barely in this. And finally, he got back in and beat both of them up for a minute. And then, Sheamus made a comeback on Theory and gave him his finish off the ropes and got a 2 count. And in Theory, threw Lashley into the stairs, and Lashley took the fucking stairs literally head first and busted his own head open in the stairs. Did you see that?
I did.
And so then Lashley got to hurt lock on Theory, but Sheamus went for the big kick. Lashley turned Theory into the kick, boom, and then dumped Sheamus and pinned Theory, 1, 2, 3. So they apparently are not going to use this to try to elevate our boy Austin any further. And it's Bobby again out there by himself, looking great and needing dressing around him to look like a star and come across like one. So now the finals are going to be what are the finals later on in the night is AJ against Lashley, which I was at least looking forward to that because that'd probably be the best Lashley had looked in a while. But again, this match, just the same thing. Does this feel like a big, important world championship? We just heard about it 10 days ago, the whole concept of it.
Yeah, and I'm kind of sick of seeing Theory and Lashley. We just saw them in another 3-way against Bronson Reed at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, yes.
So, I'm kind of sick of Lashley. I don't think it works at all right now. Him as a babyface with no manager is just... He looks great. He could do great stuff in the ring, but there's nothing else right now. Sheamus I've been sick of for a while. And then Theory's great, but I'm sick of seeing Theory in there with Lashley. So I kind of didn't like this match.
Well, did you see the debut of our old friend from when NXT was watchable, Cameron Grimes?
I did see this, yes.
And folks, if you didn't, basically they've kind of tidied him up. The way we like Cameron Grimes was with his hair all out long and his fucking beard out and all of his body hair. I mean, the fucking hair out of his nostrils was 3 inches long. It was fucking great. He's got a ton of personality. And every time they shave his body or cut his beard or whatever, he looks pale and like some fucking job guy. Well, now they've got him groomed somewhat, but he still has hair in a lot of places. That's the only way I can describe it. But he didn't look as bad as he did when they just looked like they waxed him. But apparently, well, I don't know whether they got any plans for him or not, because his opponent was Baron von Corbin. And they've been literally tormenting Corbin and cursing the ground he walks on by humiliating him for weeks now. Won't let him speak, never wins a match. So it could just be Cameron's one of many, but they have the match. The bell rings to start the match. Grimes does his big leap and his double stomp to the chest they call the cave in, because he used to look like a caveman. And boom, 1, 2, 3. So he beat Baron von Corbin in 3 seconds. Analyze that contest, Brian.
They didn't waste any time with Cameron Grimes. They gave him a clean win. They made sure he didn't have a competitive match with a man who's been presented like a fool for a long time. Hopefully this ends that and he can move on, but I'm sure it'll now be a month of him and Cameron Grimes doing bad comedy and having more matches.
No, I think they'll move on because they don't want to give Corbin that much TV time. They don't want to have him say anything that might be remotely enjoyed. But okay, here's the big one, and then we'll get to the main event. The entire Bloodline was live in the ring for a promo. Roman Reigns was insanely over for this crowd, and well, he's insanely over. I could have put a period on it there. And he said there was only one royal family in wrestling and only one family that will ever main event both nights at WrestleMania. And that obviously is his. Go ahead.
Again, interesting though, he's directly, by saying that, directly taking a shot at Cody, who we're being led to believe he's not going to be wrestling anytime soon.
Well, Cody's not going to main event both nights of WrestleMania anyway.
I'm talking about the more than one royal family line.
Well, yes. But okay, well, what about that? What about next year, to make up for losing this year, Cody gets to main event both nights?
And then the Usos versus Dustin and Brandy.
There you go. Well, I don't know, Brandy. She might not want to do the job.
She shouldn't. She should win.
Well, but Dustin's, getting over the hill now. I don't know whether he can hold his part up.
No.
Anyway, Roman Reigns put Solo over like $1 million. At Backlash, who stepped up? He eliminates problems. He eliminated Riddle. He sink or swim. He swims like a shark. And then Roman brought up the Owens and Sammy problem. Or no, actually, he didn't. Solo said something that off microphone. And Roman says, well, Owens and Sammy aren't the problem. It's your brothers that are the problem. And then the Usos turn around like, what? And he got up in their face, and this was a nice fucking promo. You lost at WrestleMania. You dedicated your title match to me at Backlash, and you lost that. I'm not even in a tag team. You disrespected our bloodline. You embarrassed me. He jumped all over him. And which I can never keep track when they're standing next to each other without an announcer calling one or the other. Which one's Jimmy and which one's Jay? Which one was smiling and which one wasn't?
Jay is the one with the shorter hair now. Jimmy's the one who Roman was kind of getting on here.
Well, but who was smiling at first?
Jimmy, I think.
But Jimmy, okay. Then okay. Well, nevertheless, the point is Jay was kind of pissed off facially, but Jimmy was kind of doing the embarrassed smiling thing. And Roman is like demanding, apologize to me. No. The next thing I need to hear out of either one of your mouths is I'm sorry or I apologize to you, my tribal chief. And then fucking Roman shoved Jimmy because he was laughing. Oh, you think I'm a clown? Now that they were doing the commercial, the Goodfellas thing for WrestleMania. I'm here to amuse you. And he got all over him. But then both the Usos kind of got serious. And there was a long audio mute in the middle of this. I don't know who could have said what, but it was lengthy. And then it was Jay that apologized, but Jimmy wasn't happy, right? Or vice versa. Oh, God damn it. Point is, one of them apologized, one of them still not happy, and
Jay apologized for Jimmy, on behalf of Jimmy.
Right, on behalf of Jimmy. And Roman was staring a hole through him, and Paulie gets the microphone and announces at Night of Champions, we're going to finish this tag team title situation. It's going to be Zayn and Owens versus Solo, and the Usos perk up, and Roman. And the Usos are bullshit, and Roman dedicates the title win that they're going to have to Afa and Sika, the Wild Samoans. Here's the problem, Brian. Now that they've backed themselves into somewhat of a corner, setting precedents in other areas, how does this make sense when they've just announced that one of the main reasons mentioned by them was that they're starting a new world title is because Roman Reigns has negotiated where he barely ever has to defend. So how did the same company agree to give him a chance at another world title that he will then, by process of elimination, never fucking defend?
That is a great point.
So otherwise than that, see, we need somebody on top of these things up there. So, maybe get Stephen P. New on the case. He's detail-oriented. But so anyway, yes, I like the idea of swerving the Usos and having Roman in another way to use Roman without having a singles challenger ready. But for the tag team title, then they've kind of shot themselves in the foot with what they just said over on the other program last week, right?
Also burying one of the leads. I guess Sami Zayn's going to Saudi Arabia.
Well, maybe he will and maybe he won't. And we don't know.
Unless the Usos somehow won the tag titles before then, and then they would wrestle Roman and Solo?
Or potentially he could get run over in the parking lot. That happens about 3 times a week in wrestling.
That's true.
right? Or, whatever the case. I'm not saying they're going to false advertise right up until the moment, but if he hasn't wanted to go before, why would he want to go now? But at the same time, maybe he doesn't have, maybe there's some swerve yet to come or whatever. I don't know.
The problem is we don't see Roman at all. They build up that Roman's going to be on SmackDown, and it's still something that stands out. Even if you get past the entrance, just him in the ring, the reaction he gets, the way he carries himself, Heyman. I've been a fan of Solo so far. I think he's been great. And all the drama with the Usos. But it's taken us, a month and a half to get from the last point to here. Everything's going really, really slow right now. Nothing has felt like it's worked since WrestleMania. It was cool to see Roman here, but are we going to see him on next week's show? Are we going to see him on the week after that? Or is it going to be that he pops in once a month to further this thing along so that, like his title reign, where they could say it's 1,000 days and he's defended it 25 times in 1,000 days, they could say that the Bloodline's going for another year, but 3 things happen in 1 year.
Well, there's one flaw in your proposition there. The way that you presented that is he can't not show up because May 27th is Night of Champions, right? So it's about 11, 12 days away. He pretty much has to be on TV again next week or he ain't gonna make it. Don't you think?
I don't know. Night of Legends, that's a Saturday afternoon, I think we have to
Not
watch
Night
that.
of Legends now. God, I'll sue them.
What did you say? Night of Champions.
Night of Champions.
Yeah, but I mean, do you understand what I'm saying, though? It just feels like nothing's happening with any of this stuff.
No, I definitely agree with you there. Especially when, it's 5 hours of television a week to get what we get. But anyway, speaking of which, poor Bianca Belair. Before we go to the main event, the title elimination final match of the winner is SmackDown representative in a tournament for a Raw title or whatever the fuck. Bianca Belair goes to Puerto Rico last week and gets the goddamnedest, most negative reception, booed out of the building. People wanted, old EO to just kick her ass, right? And then she comes back to friendly country, her alma mater. She went to the University of Tennessee. She's, considered a hometown. She gets the big homecoming celebration. They had the orange balloons, Tennessee Volunteer colors, this big music entrance, the big balloons, the whole 9 yards. And before she can say a fucking word, Asuka comes out, shakes her hand and spits mist in her face and fucking walks off and leaves her. What has Bianca done lately? They won't, at least she could have said, "Oh, thank you all. I used to go here to this school," or something.
Maybe they were running tight on time.
Well, goddamn, I can think of a couple of other things they could have shortened up earlier in this program just to give her an extra 26 seconds.
Asuka came out there, no makeup on, or no, character makeup on, I guess.
No, she had no lipstick, no rouge, no eyeliner.
You know what I mean. She came out there and they did this, obviously setting up, it's an angle to set up a match. Probably pretty good. My biggest issue was, from the moment Asuka came out there, it was clear she had shit in her mouth. Like when you take a drink of water and you just hold it in your mouth, you could tell.
I thought she'd just been to the dentist and the Novocaine hadn't worn off.
That was the biggest issue. I'm okay with all this good angle. Bianca selling like crazy the way she was selling. It was great. But you could tell she had the shit in her mouth that she blows in everyone's face. She walked out there with 2 puffy cheeks filled with shit.
Yeah, because she covered Bianca. She had about 6 gallons in her gullet.
So that's my biggest issue with it. You never saw the Great Kabuki come out there with loaded cheeks.
Yeah, she looked like Louis Armstrong with the fucking trumpet cheeks.
Yeah, the whole thing was man, when in the match did Muta get a chance to do this? I can't believe it. It's amazing. She just came out there all right, let's do it.
We'll see. And like I said, the mist did look good because she covered her. And when you think about it, and I'll tell you the difference in how they obviously did it, but hers didn't look like a Muda mist or a Kabuki mist. It looked like projectile vomiting of fucking St. Patrick's Day or something. And the thing is, we've talked about it before. It's not like I'm breaking new ground here. The way that the what's the proper term these days, from the East, the mystical Eastern warriors like Kabuki and Muta, the way that they blew the mist was, it's food coloring in a condom. And either you have the referee pass it or your manager pass it or whatever. Gary Hart was a sleight of hand artist with things like that and blades and things. He had so much practice. And you bite the thing and you've got the food and you spit the mist. There, by the nature of that, there was never a case where you could get enough in your mouth to puff your cheeks out, unless they used one of those goddamn Magnum condoms and filled the thing up to the point where it looked like Gary Hart was shoving a green dildo down his fucking gullet.
Hey, did a condom just come out of Muda's mouth? What's going on?
Well, and that's happened too. No, that's happened. Not only that, but it's the same way with blood. Remember, we've talked about this, when a karate thrust to the throat or a tennis racket to the throat, or you jump on somebody's stomach or hit them with a sledgehammer or whatever the fuck. If you want somebody to internal bleeding, instead of food coloring, you can tell because it stains your skin when it gets on it and it looks odd and off. It's not the right thickness, etc. I can do pretty good with a mixture of food coloring and honey and a couple of other secret ingredients. But that's just if you need. I refuse to use fake blood in an actual wrestling match. But if there's something that needs to be done backstage, we don't want people just fucking, gigging themselves. But the same thing was, you would draw the guy's blood, whoever was going to bite it. It wouldn't be somebody else's blood. You'd take a syringe, draw his blood, shoot it in a fucking condom, tie it off, and put it in a bucket of warm water so it doesn't fucking clot. Until, and I don't mean all day, like on the porch of Funkin' Wagnalls in a mayonnaise jar. I mean, for the, however many minutes it takes to get ready, go out and have the fucking match. And then the manager carries it in his pocket, or the referee or whatever, and you slip it in at the appropriate time.
It may be difficult in modern times to, be in the back and say, hey, who has a condom? Not everyone may answer.
Well, no, I'm not talking about for fucking around. You used to carry those around for wrestling fucking.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I know none of these guys are getting laid. Could get a date on a tombstone, any of them. But I'm talking, you always would keep your blades or your condoms or your fucking powder, or your plastic bags for powder, or your chain, or your knucks, or Yeah, I had a variety of implements in my traveling bag in the old days. But anyway, so then the main event of the evening came up on SmackDown, which was the final match between the two winners of the previous two triple threat matches to determine who's going to go to the Night of Champions and face the guy who won two triple threat matches and another match on Raw on Monday. Jesus Christ. And basically, it was AJ and Bobby Lashley, and they had managed to stop the bleeding where Bobby had run headfirst into the steel stairs, but he had did you see the big old knot on his head?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And again, I was at matches as a photographer or as a fan 3 days a week for several years at minimum. And then I was on the road with, and I mean, it's not like Mid-South Wrestling or Crockett Promotions were exactly, soft wrestling, or the, WWE cartoon type of 8-minute match or whatever. Those guys did a lot of shit. I wouldn't see as many hard ways in a fucking year as I've seen on television in the last month. But anyway, they had a good match. AJ is the right kind of opponent for Bobby. He's smaller and quicker and a heel that can bump around and then come out of nowhere with a big high impact move or off the top or whatever that can believably do damage to Bobby Lashley. But having said that, it was mostly this was a regular Raw or SmackDown match, except that Bobby started bleeding again, which gave it a little bit more drama. But, they went 2 minutes to the break when they got started. And then they came back and had the rest of the match. And finally, Bobby went for the spear. AJ moved. He hit the post. AJ hit the forearm off the top. 1, 2, 3. And so it's AJ versus Seth Franklin Rollins at the pay-per-view for the new improved restaurant quality gourmet world heavyweight title that they have created. And I got to think we're in for another, well, when you know who won the pony moment. I think a lot of people were saying, well, it's probably going to be Seth. I think it may be Seth. Don't you think it may be old Franklin?
I think it has to be Franklin at this point. I think things have kind of been pointing in that direction. I think it should be a good match, all things considered, even though it'll be airing in the middle of the day from Saudi Arabia. That's never a fun time to watch wrestling. But I think it's going to be Rollins. If you're Rollins and kayfabe, why wouldn't you immediately win the belt and say, all right, I'll see you in a month. I'm going to work Roman's schedule. They let him do it. I'm going to do it too. And then they have to they should have to keep creating another world champion over and over again.
Well, and also here, another clue is the guy, they just had a draft. And the guy that they just sent to SmackDown is wrestling a guy that they just sent to Raw or is on Raw for a title that they've said will be exclusive to Raw.
Right.
No Raw.
The other thing I'll say is if Cody and Roman is still the big picture that they're going to get to, we assume. And not all assumptions are safe when it comes to Vince McMahon. Rollins being one champion and Roman's being the other, if they do interact, if it's not just Rollins having his own universe on Raw, there's something interesting there. Both guys from The Shield, both guys are now world champion, very different personalities on camera. There's probably something that could be done there, but if one's going to be kept exclusively on Raw, and Roman's going to work one time every 6 weeks, he might not even work. He's going to do a promo once in every 6 weeks and then maybe work. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But there's something there for Rollins and Roman. They were teasing it with Rollins and Heyman on Raw a few weeks ago.
Can you imagine the promos Roman could cut on Franklin when he said, look at you. What have you become since we were together? Look at you. The state of you. With that shit-sniffing look he gets on his face.
I thought it was bad enough when Ambrose left to become a plumber. But look at you. Look at you.
Look at you. You're a costume designer. All right, well, that was the incomparable episode of SmackDown. And now we make the big plans for the date with Destiny that AJ and Seth Franklin have in Saudi Arabia.